pop in for color commentary.
I'm also eating. Oh my god, twins.
All right, let's go ahead and start. 33 days, 16 players, 3 co-hosts, and 1 podcast. This is your host, Poody, and this is the finale of Stranded in the Andes. Today we're joined by Dean from Tanzania.
Hello, everyone.
Tyler from AGNC.
Hey, everyone.
Loveita from Victory. And Danny from Turks and Caicos.
Leslie was robbed.
So today we're going to go over the last few episodes. Last podcast, we recapped the first half of the season. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty of the merge. Post the obvious boots of Jamie and Eric, this is really where the game starts to begin. Everything kind of opens up where we start getting some Ansha boots finally. So that's really where we see a lot of the drama that plays out throughout the finale in this core episode. This is really where it starts. So episode 8. The tribe mates begin to flip on each other and they try to figure out who flipped in the previous vote because of course there was that hinky vote for, was it Leslie?
It was always Leslie.
Leslie always gets them.
Yeah. So we have Sarah who feels nervous. She's aligned with different tribe members and faces a potential target. Jean Robert's strategy comes under scrutiny, causing chaos and frustration. This is really where Jean Robert steps up into his chaos role. And finally, he starts to get some traction there. Shan also becomes a center of discussion here. She's kind of playing the middle and not really sure where she lies. She's been talking to Leslie the past 2 rounds. Of course, she sees that she was the swing vote in that first tribal council where she was trying to debate on flipping, and now again she's being kind of persuaded into potentially flipping with Jean Robert, but it looks like her and Leslie are trying to play it safe. This is really where the beginning of that frustration starts.
Yeah, I think Shan was in a really interesting position this round because people tried to pin that rogue Leslie vote on her. I don't remember if it was Abe or Deshaun or who started it, but they were kind of trying to ostracize her within that Ansha group. Whereas she kept saying it wasn't me, but because she didn't write a comment on her vote for Jamie, she had no way to confirm to everybody else, like, look, yes, I, voted the way that I said I was going to vote. And it started a whole bunch of drama, which kind of pushed her closer into Leslie's arms and really was the catalyst for her potentially voting with the Yellow Tribe.
I actually wanted to clarify in the last episode, the one where Eric was voted out, wasn't there a stray vote for Xander? Is that the one Shan accidentally voted for Xander?
Yes, that is correct. That's when Shan had to pre-vote because her power went out for many, many hours. And she had pre-voted for Xander because she was ready to make a move. And then they all had to back out of it because that's when JR actually did not have the numbers. And that really colors what happens this episode.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the Ansha fall apart where they really have several opportunities to gain the lead over this core 4 Stoner Alliance, and they don't take the shot several times. And I think that's why they don't take the shot, because in the past it hasn't worked, and Jean Robert has been pushing so hard to get numbers together. And I think Shan and Leslie have been talking. Now they're a bond, and they both are kind of over Jean Robert constantly pushing, and they just don't believe him that people are potentially flipping with him, even though Sarah and Heather have serious cracks forming. They both hate one another, and they're both willing to target one another. And this round in particular, the alliance of Abraham, Deshaun, Evie, and Xander begin to flip on Sarah, and there is a window there for them to vote out one of Abraham or Deshaun, and Shan and Leslie just do not see that potential.
Yep, this is the round. And a lot of it also had to do with Leslie wanting to make her own move because she didn't want Jean Robert to have credit for voting out Abraham because he was sort of the main person behind it, which is a bit of warped thinking. But also, was this the round where Abraham had that thing with Sarah or Shan where someone told him something who then told someone else, like Jean Robert, I think, because that caused a whole scuffle and Abraham's name to really go out there. I don't know if it was this round or not. I think it was, but that caused a lot of issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think this was the round where it was Shan and Xander who were talking after basically Abe and Shan had been talking like late into the night or something, and then Abe started sharing all of the messages to Xander, just copy and pasting them. And so Xander very inconspicuously just hits up a conversation with Shan, being like, "Hey, we never take game. What do you want to do?" And Shan went to Abe and was like, "Did you say something to Xander?" And that is when Abraham goes to Xander and said, "You ruined my game." And things went from there as well.
It all happened so fast, and it was just wild to see that for a bit, because it really did feel like that was sort of the end of Abraham, but it obviously isn't.
Yeah, it was super frustrating because they had all the ammunition, they had all the puzzle pieces, various confirmation that they had the numbers to make the move. They had all the confirmation they needed that these guys were working together apart from them. And
I was just going to point out that I think some of the issue was just the quickness of the timing of things, because I don't believe that Sarah really got tipped off that she was being targeted that round until Heather, of all people, came to warn her. And that's kind of where the real excitement started to happen, because as you said, all of the pieces were starting to come together in that point.
Yeah, of all things, Sarah and Heather are the people who are aligning with Jean Robert on this vote. It is a ridiculous trio of people to finally kind of get on the same page for once and notice this Abe, Deshawn, Evie, Xander thing that's kind of going on. Or at least Abe, Deshawn, Evie, they thought at the time. And so to then have Leslie and Shan be the ones who said, "No, we're voting Sarah out," was really the shocking way the round went down.
Yeah, it's frustrating because usually people who are in the bottom are clamoring for anyone to vote with them, just like any possible person to flip. And here they had two people who did vote with them, and yet they like turned on their number one ally because they were like skeezed out by him. I don't know. It's like, just put up with his ass. Who cares? You need the votes. And then the extra frustrating part was like the whole episode, they're like, "I don't think you have the votes, Jean Robert. Sorry, I'm not going to vote with you." And then afterwards, they're like, "See, I told you, you didn't have the votes," even though clearly had those two voted with him, they would have had the votes. It's so frustrating.
That's where that math comes in.
Some people in this season real bad at geography. Other people in this season real bad at math.
Yeah, this class all got Fs in school for different things.
And just like for them to like continue on for rounds about how Jean Robert was wrong. And then also the super frustrating part is that they've convinced Jean Robert that he was wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, you look at his IMs and confessionals later on, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I should." Like, even in Ponderosa right now, he's like, "Oh, if I ever play another org again, I'll learn to tone it down." And I'm like, no, you were right, though.
You were perfect, never change.
Yeah, he was almost apologizing, like, "Oh man, you guys were right. I didn't have the numbers." When you did, though, you had the fucking numbers. You just needed those two who were too stubborn to go along with you to actually flip the vote. And they were supposed to be your number one allies. So very, very frustrating for the lurkers. Even more so like the smugness on the Force faces after that. Just really not cool. I don't know. To then hear like, I mean, you have to be frustrated with Shan and Leslie for this. And I know for the longest time we were and still are probably. But it's also then hard to hear like Xander say that Leslie was a non-entity. And she probably was. And this is the reason why. But oh man, it was right there. It was right there.
Yeah, definitely the most frustrating thing of the entire season, because everyone did everything wrong, basically.
And it's interesting that you brought up Xander being a non-entity, because at this point in the game, I think that is how he's being perceived by a lot of the other players. And I do think that, after his being outed with this screenshot and voting for Leslie, that people are really not catching on to his role in the whole threesome. Yeah,
the main trio is swapped with Deshawn. People think Xander is the one on the outs of that four, or they think he's just in the middle, one of them. But Yeah, if there's one interesting thing about this vote, it's the fact that Sarah and Heather did make up, at least before Sarah had to go, which was pretty interesting to see, considering their dynamic the whole season pre-merge.
I think that's just like how this whole section of the merge is going to go. Is just too little too late.
Yeah, that's the theme of the entire merge period.
I feel like this is kind of what like lights a fire under Heather as well, as she has the realization that she's really got to do something as well if she wants to progress in this game.
I wouldn't even say it's too little too late, because they have plenty of time. It's really it's willful ignorance. It really is. It's like, it's right. I don't know how much clearer you can spell it out for them. And that's going to continue all the way until the very final tribal council, where there's some other willful ignorance going on that is very frustrating to watch.
Actually, do we need to cover the rest of the episodes? Can't we just, we know how it's going to go at this point. You know, once Sarah leaves, there's not much.
That's how it felt. Yeah,
there's not much to watch for. It goes pretty predictably.
So, yeah, Sarah gets voted out with 5 votes. She does leave us with a very fiery exit speech, which we love.
The Bible stuff.
Yeah. The next episode, Heather reveals that she did warn Sarah about the vote off. There were some questions about Abraham thought Deshaun might have warned Sarah, which was kind of funny to see those cracks already starting. And he then admits to voting for Leslie, which was all over the place. Jean Robert, of course, wins the in-crowd challenge. And in those answers should have been some pretty obvious clues for the rest of the tribe, as, you know, not that we could have spelled it out any clearer for them, but it did kick up some dirt, this in-crowd challenge. Unfortunately, yet again, they did not go with their best interests, and they end up not using Heather, even though she tries very hard to get them to vote with her.
The thing to know about the in-crowd challenge is everybody always pays attention to who is the most likely to win the game question. But what you really have to watch out for is the who is the most trustworthy person in the game question. And this season, the winners of that question was a 3-way tie between Abraham, Evie, and Xander.
And not for nothing, it's worth looking at in numbers. I think this, in combination with numbers, is really telling of where everyone lies. I mean, if you do well in numbers, you're not getting targeted usually. And then if you can compound that with the answers from the in crowd, that should give you a really clear idea of where everyone stands. And I just don't think that it's like, I'm not sure how much more we can beat into these people. What's going on here? And I think it's so frustrating. It happens almost every season. We ask the obvious questions at Tribal Council, and then everyone's like, well, they're just trying to stir the pot. And it's like, yes, we are trying to fucking stir the pot, because you're an idiot. You're not seeing what we can see as outsiders with obviously infinite knowledge of what's going on in the game. But like, clearly, if you had, you know, just put some critical thinking in there, you could put 2 and 2 together, and they just never do, which is interesting. I almost wonder if people don't want to be wrong, because then that shows that they were playing poorly before that point. Like, they just rather go along thinking, oh no, well, I'm the special one, because, you know, if I admitted that I'm not at the core of this alliance and I've been wrong this entire time, and that's more embarrassing than, I guess, just taking the L and moving on, right? But it's just frustrating.
Some people might do that where even if they think that they may be in the wrong, it's too late for them to stop and reverse, and they'll just keep going at it. I don't know if anyone in particular has done that, but it could be something that has happened. The past few rounds, Heather has really come around and shown that she is here to play. It's just really unfortunate that a lot of these other people just didn't get it, because this was the last round, because I think this was final 8. So this was the last round that they could really go against the Stoner Trio foursome, because that's the last time they have the numbers on it. But yeah, Heather's going to go here in a 7-1 vote, obviously with Leslie receiving the 1 vote. But really, they had it if they had just, they could have forced a tie here if they really wanted to, and they just don't. But it's interesting because we just had Sarah, who came
out of her weak position, frankly, from Ansha, showing that she could be this power player if she wanted to. She really tried to. And then we have Heather, who came into the game wanting to just kind of float, and up until this point had been a weaker player. And then something almost clicked where I think she was a big Brother fan and not a huge Survivor fan. And then I think right around this vote, it just clicked for her. And on her way out, she really leaves this awesome call out for everyone in the game and really kind of lays it out. And then we're going to see that continue in Ponderosa, where she is really calling it like it is.
Calling everyone ragamuffin.
But she really seems to have a good grasp on what happened the entire game, unlike most of the people, even in Ponderosa, and just becomes like this, I want to say, the voice of the lurkers, for lack of a better term. And I couldn't be happier that she had that transformation. It really gives me hope for her going forward as a player in future seasons or future games. So shout out to Heather.
Yeah, she's definitely really shined, probably the most out of all the jurors, except maybe Jamie. But I think that she has shown here that if she does come back for another season, especially when she reads all the things post game, she'll probably learn how to read the game even better, so she can be really this good from the start. So I think this is more of a learning experience for Heather than anything else. It's a good one, though. Still sucks that we lost her, though.
I was going to say that Jamie is probably my voice for the lurkers in terms of the reads she was able to have as mayor of Ponderosa. But Heather was the fire and the entertainment of Ponderosa for me, for sure. I loved her in there. I loved her in her vote out. And I hate kind of how this episode, it really was, because I think from the kind of Stoner Trio and Deshawn side of things, this was actually a really complicated round because they all wanted to vote out either JR or Leslie, but JR was immune, and so none of them really wanted to vote out Leslie, and then they didn't want to vote out Shan yet, and so it kind of just fell on Heather for them, but nobody really stepped up to defend her, which was really unfortunate there when she had finally kind of figured everything out.
Yeah, when Jean Robert won, it sent all of Ansha into such a frenzy in the IMs. They were freaking out because they didn't have that easy Jean Robert vote anymore. And each of them has a specific person that they'd prefer to have out first. And I'm not sure how they landed on Heather, but she was the one to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I honestly thought that this was the episode that Shan won immunity, and that's why everyone voted for Heather. But am I making that up?
Shan won something.
I thought the in-crowd challenge was the episode before, because Sarah was named
it had to be. You're right.
Sarah was named as somebody who thought she was mistakenly in control.
You're right. This is off.
It's a little bit off.
Oops, so she failed.
Yeah. ChatGPT. The AI takeover. Loveita, you still have a job.
Yay!
Yeah, Shan does win immunity because in the previous round, because she goes home right after that. Spoiler alert.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So JR had won in final 9, which is why he was off the table, and Abraham really were the vote split there. Okay. And so Shan wins immunity, final 8. And so in that case, I think it was probably more that Shan and Heather were not willing to vote out Jean Robert. And I don't think Evie was either. And so they would have forced the tie for Jean Robert, but nobody would have forced the tie for Heather.
Right. That was the thing, because I remember thinking the whole time, I can't believe they wanted Jean Robert out for so long in Merge. And he finally doesn't have immunity anymore because he won it the previous round. And because they were so scared about a tie and people not wanting to vote him out, they just went with Heather as the easy vote.
It's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, but you definitely called them all out for the 7-1 vote. At this point, it seemed like the writing was definitely on the wall, so to speak.
Yeah, anytime there's a unanimous vote, and at the merge at least, someone's going to regret it the next round, right? Like someone else is getting voted out of the people that were in the unanimous vote, and they should not be voting unanimously in this round. But so to future players, if there is a unanimous vote, change that shit.
Yeah. Yes. Was this the episode that Shan goes to Xander, or is that next episode where she wants to work with Xander?
Next episode. So Heather's elimination occurs. They talk about the call out that she had, how shocking that was. Abraham, of course, wins immunity, and then the tribe is divided among the vote. It kind of, I think Shan, Leslie, and John Robert all realize at this point that the writing is on the wall and there's not much they can do, but they assume that they can swing Xander, and they put all their energy into swinging Xander when really they probably would have had a better shot with Evie. I mean, it probably wouldn't have gone anywhere regardless, but at least that would have given them something to work with.
Or Deshaun, even though they voted for Deshaun.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think Deshaun at that point would have been so confident. I mean, he really gets blindsided. So I do think maybe Evie was the better move to try to pull, especially given that she was so close to Shan and had a hard time voting her out this episode. It might have been, regardless, it's too late. Like, clearly, no matter who they decided to work, it's too late. But in particular, Xander was brutal at this because he really went along with them, pretending like he was going to flip for the majority of the episode, and then obviously doesn't. So there's a lot of whisperings at tribal council. After Shannon's voted out, she confronts Xander and has like a back and forth fight with him for a good bit after she's voted out 4-3, which was really rewarding to watch. I mean, she hated him all season, and then this was like the final fuck you to her. So she really lets him have it afterwards.
Yeah, that was satisfying as a last minute thing. And she's like, I'm going to keep going until the tribal council thread's locked.
Yeah, and you know, this season they didn't say goodbye or like congrats to anyone who left. They were just like silent. So to finally get like some call outs right at the end was awesome. Like, finally people are using that time in between the vote out and shutting off their communication entirely to make some noise. So with that, we're left with just Leslie and Jer. Honestly, very shocking that those two were able to make the final 5. So congratulations there. I wouldn't have given them those odds, unfortunately, or rather the final 6 and then later the final 5. But you know, I really would have thought that they would have been picked off earlier than this, and so to be able to even eke out this far is impressive. And then in this round in particular coming up, even more craziness happens, which I was not expecting. I really thought after Shan left, like, that was it, we were just gonna straight sweep down the line. But Abraham wins the immunity challenge, securing his safety, obviously. Conversations revolve around potential voting. Abraham and Evie debate whether to involve Leslie and John Robert. This is really where those 3 stoners decide it's time to cut Deshaun. I think they think he's gotten too much traction with the rest of the players. They all view him as a leader of sorts, and now is the time to make their move. I think this was really, I don't know if this is what sealed their lead necessarily, but this was a good move on their part. I have to give them credit for this. Getting rid of Deshaun, I think, was maybe Abraham's best move at this point.
Definitely in the late game. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. Poor Deshaun, he reminds me so much of like what would happen to me in all of my early org game experiences, where I feel like I've got so many close friendships. Everybody trusts me. Everybody likes me. If I can just get to the finals, I've got this thing won. And then it's like, yeah, well, everybody else figured that out too. And so, yeah, let's take you out now before you even see it coming. And so, yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking to see that happen to Deshaun. He certainly was a very likable, lovable player.
I think the funniest part of this round is Leslie and John Robert are targeting Deshaun at Tribal Council, where they come out with this long speech, and then Abraham, Evie, and Xander just kind of lose their shit, whispering to each other, assuming that John Robert is about to take credit for the move that they wanted to make.
Yeah, because they were planning on voting Deshaun no matter what, I think. And they really were like wanting to make sure that it was on them, because I think for the most part, like early merge, they planned for all 3 stoners plus Deshaun to be at Final 4. And then this round was when they really realized, if we let him get near Final 4, that is very dangerous. And so pretty much after Final 9, this was probably the most shocking, in a good way. Well, good for gameplay, bad for Deshaun fans. Tribal. So yeah, it was just funny though to see them lose their shit with the Whispers. They hated the Whispers all season long.
I am going to agree with you, Poody, that this was probably best for Abraham specifically, because he doesn't win immunity next round. And if they had just voted out Jean Robert there, who are they going to vote out between Leslie, Deshawn, and Abraham at the final 5?
That's a good point.
Wow.
So I did kind of just realize that in the moment with you saying that, but I do agree that was good for Abraham specifically. I do not think he owned that very well in his final tribal council. Good job, Abe. That's a good thing you did.
Yeah, we're going to get into Abe when we discuss that final. I mean, look, I really do think Abe played a great game. It's just I'm not sure he's aware of just how good it was or why it was good and what was bad about it, because there were definitely some flaws. But, I mean, it's hard to deny the dominance he had on the season, obviously, for better or worse. And I think with this particular set of people, it worked really well. I don't think he would have gotten away with it with more savvy players, but you can't take away from him the dominance that mist he had over all these people from his paranoid, anxiety-driven berating of them. I just had the realization, I think his game is most like, God, who's the Big Brother player? She was a lesbian.
Vanessa?
Yes.
I think Donnie said that earlier.
Yeah, someone said that in the server earlier.
Yeah, like really dominant, but in like a manipulative, insecure like way where she would berate people for hours, just tearing them down with like her sob story. And I think that is similar to how Abe dominates. Like it's very, I don't know. It's so strange.
Like it's not fake, but oh my gosh.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's just exhausting.
It's used. It's not fake, but it's used.
It's like a child who knows that their tantrums can get results from their parents.
Yes, that is a great way to put it. It's a strange manipulation. But anyway, so Deshawn is blindsided here 5-1, and it was a crazy tribal council. Deshawn did not see it coming at all, and he really thought he was like at the top of that alliance and had like final 2s in that alliance, and he just did not. And there was no showing him that he did not.
There's also where Evie tried to change their vote to Leslie 7 seconds late try to cover with Deshawn, and even whispered to Deshawn last second, like, no, you're fine. It's Leslie. And then
skeezy.
Yep.
Yeah, that was one thing Evie kind of did a bit too much for my liking.
Yeah, Evie was the worst offender at this. They really would go out of their way to like make the person going home believe that they were on their side the whole time, and that was never the case. So it's just very strange, skeezy. Like, I guess it's pandering for a jury vote, but if someone was that adamant that I was staying and they were not betraying me, and I found out that they were betraying me the whole time, it would really make me not want to vote for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the logic there. I mean, Evie had their moments of great gameplay, great social gameplay for sure, but then like some questionable decisions. I don't know. So Deshawn goes home. We're left with the final 5 with Jean Robert and Leslie. Shockingly, would have never called that, but there we are. Jean Robert tries to convince Evie and Xander to go against Abraham. He loses immunity. This should be the obvious shot, yet they don't take it. They really believe that they stand a good chance in the finals against Abraham, and that Abraham's going to take, I guess, both of them, they thought, to the final 2. And Evie is going to be shocked in a round or so when they find out that is not the case.
Yeah, and this was I will say this was a very difficult decision for both Evie and Xander to make. And they did and again, this is where I think Abraham is the one who made the good move by forcing Deshawn out the round before, because Evie and Xander knew that if they went into a final 4 with JR and Leslie, even if they won immunity, one of Evie or Xander, then they would just have a tie vote on their hands. So when they were kind of faced with Abraham versus Jean Robert.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's and to be totally fair, like Abraham's not a slam dunk in the final 2. I think Evie would have really given him a run for his money. And Xander has given him a run for his money. So, it's not an easy decision. At this point in particular, they've made the blind side of Deshawn, so that kind of puts them where they wanted to be. So yeah, Jean Robert ends up going 3-2. I did love that finally Leslie seems to have come around on Jean Robert after so long of like kind of hating on him for absolutely no reason, even though he had displayed nothing but loyalty to her. She finally comes around and is like, okay, he's actually a really good guy. I've enjoyed playing with him despite the craziness. Like, I think she needed that.
Yeah, if only it was, not voting out every single number that you could use against this trio and then suddenly be like, okay, I'm going to vote with you now. But at least their friendship was settled before he had to go.
What was it? God, Kimmy, I think it was in reference to Shan. Kimmy was killing it on the Lurker server. Made the comment, I think I pinned it, that was like, okay, now that I've voted out all of my options to work with me, I'm ready to
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I think it was in reference to Shan.
Oh my god, that's literally what they did. It was just
pretty much.
Oh my god.
Now that all my numbers are gone, I'm finally ready to flip.
Yeah, it's like watching the train coming at you, and you're like, oh, maybe I should get out of the way.
Yeah, after it hits you.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why they don't flip at the final five, at least the threesome, mostly just because they've got the numbers now and they really don't know for sure if it's going to be a final three or a final two. So for them to sort of just write out their numbers at this point kind of makes sense. And like we've all discussed, nobody was necessarily a slam dunk per se.
So yeah, the writing's on the wall. Jean Robert goes home 3-2. Rip to the GOAT. Fantastic player, super fun all game. I said it, I think I said it last podcast, but if not, I think the best part about Jean Robert is that he never let the game get the better of him. Like, he very well could have and probably should have been super frustrated with Leslie and Shan, but after every vote of it not working, he would go to them and be like, I totally understand, guys. I had to try. Maybe we can do something this round. And I just thought that was like such a good attitude.
I mean, even some of his conversations with Abraham, especially early merge, Abraham was like, I don't want to be your friend. Don't talk to me. And throughout the game, JR's like, hey man, want to have a conversation? Hey, let's talk. And they ended up with this kind of mutual respect for each other in a weird way. So JR always was great with never backing down from trying any opportunity available.
And not for nothing, like, I know I prejudged him going into this thinking he was just going to be like this total unaware douchebag. And maybe he was to a degree, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, he was kind of one of the best players in a weird way, like, not even game wise, because I don't know that necessarily he was a fantastic player strategically, but just from a personal level and great gamesmanship and attitude, and I just really enjoyed him as a player, and I think everyone else did as well. Like, super fun villain underdog that you would want.
Yes, main character, if you will.
Yeah, like, that's who you want. Very shades of Lindsay from your season, Tyler.
Yeah, very much.
So yeah,
I don't even think he ended up being a villain. He ended up maybe to some of the cast, but he ended up in this very like underdog, rootable, kind of hero role where I think we all expected him to kind of be the villain, and maybe some of his gameplay was a little more villain in typecasting. But I think the position he was in was actually very heroic.
Like, that's the thing I love most about him, is because I was sort of like Poody, where I thought, oh, this is just some douchebag that'll be good for a laugh or two for a round, and then he'll burn out before merge or something. And he came and just totally surprised us in a great way. And even though he may have some tendencies that you would think would be a villain, like Loveita said, because of his position, he kind of became more of this heroic character, at least for the lurkers. And he, again, was kind of a class act with how he never gave up with talking to people like Abraham, who almost immediately wanted nothing to do with him. And that was one of my favorite things with Jean Robert, is he really shook up that tight Ansha core, like all 7 of them, when merge first happened. And no other Kaipa was close to doing that. And so I think Jean Robert is absolutely necessary for the season to have just the right amount of spice to it. Because if we didn't have Jean Robert, or if he went like really early merge, this could have been an even more boring, predictable season.
Oh, 100%. And then not even just that, they actively, like, the other Kaipas kind of penalized him for being so out there.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame, but I can understand it from their perspective when they want stability.
So it's not really, the next round's not even worth talking about. Jean Robert goes home. Abraham wins immunity. Leslie goes home next. Rip to Leslie. I mean, we talked about her in the previous podcast where she did well. This is the time where she's frustratingly not doing well. I do think she ended on a high note where, you know, it's worth noting all the good things she did in the season. It's just so frustrating, the bad decisions she made in the merge, and she's just as much to blame for this situation as any of the Anches.
Yeah, to a real one.
But we still love Leslie.
That's right.
Was it this round or the last one where Leslie had that typo in the challenge? That was one of my favorite things of her late game, where she meant to type 10 for, I think it was guesstimation, where she meant to type 10 but added an extra 0 at the end for 100. It was way off.
Final 5.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, remember when, that reminds me, when Shan won immunity and they accused us of cheating for her because she like...
Oh, right. We didn't talk about that. False.
She entered FA, and then in between that, Deshaun entered false, and then she entered LSE. And they were like, so I screenshotted that because I was like, oh, look how funny. This is like super close. We never had this happen before. Like, we had to make this call. And they just used that as, oh, the hosts are totally just going to make up whatever rules they want to get the outcome they wanted. Like, excuse me, I didn't have to fucking show you that at all. I could have just named her the winner and moved on. But in the interest of transparency and hilarity, I showed you exactly what happened when I made that call. So fuck you very much.
I was just there, and Abraham just was telling me about it. I'm like, what the hell do you mean? Like, rules
strike
are there.
3 for Abraham for me.
It was a lot.
And that's not the last time they'll accuse us of rigging, because in that tribal council, final 5 tribal council, where I really give it to them, you know, they accuse us of wanting an outcome, which, like, yes, but also no. Like, I don't know. I really...
We just wanted you to stop lying to yourselves and us.
Please.
Yeah, I think Abraham he called out something else that he thought we were cheating on, and we didn't. I forget what it was even. I think it was like a challenge call, maybe to do with it was the fucking tower stack or whatever. And it was like, dude, you practiced that challenge for weeks. If I really didn't want you to win it, do you think I would have just gone ahead with that challenge? I would have swapped it up for something else, obviously. We know what challenges you've seen in practice because you won't stop fucking talking about it. So if I really wanted to rig it against you, I'd have picked, like, I don't know, hot potato and just said you lost. You know, like, fuck off.
Yeah, that was my most disappointing moment, Nabe, too. I mean, it's so counter. It's not the reason why people host, like, to rig anything. I mean, we want an exciting game, but we're not going to rig it to get one. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, bummer.
I think ultimately that's the whole thing with Abe. Like, if he was just a better sport about the whole thing, I think we would all love him. But he's just so whiny about it. It's like, I can't even respect it, because the way he manipulates people is to whine and emotionally manipulate them, which is gross. And, like, it's just low. Like, you don't need to go that low. He's good enough to not have to do that. And because he goes there, it's gross. Like, that's what makes it very hard to root for him, because he's a great player. He's a great challenge competitor. He's a great strategist. It's just like, why does he have to get so ugh?
It's also the fact that he doesn't like it when others do things similar to it. It's the hypocrisy on top of all of it, where you just sort of roll your eyes.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that, like, what I boil it down to is he just wants this so bad. I don't know how long he's been thinking about it, all the machinations he has in his brain of preparing for this, all the research he's done. He just wants this so bad. It's like flames on the side of his face. he just like can't not like just see the possibility of losing for any reason as like a reason to panic. And so, and like every time as disappointed as I am that he would like insinuate that we would ever rig such a thing, there's also like a part of me that kind of can see how he gets there, and it all like basically just stems from his like absolute obsession with the game, which I mean, what more can you ask for in a player?
If he did his research, he would probably know that I wouldn't want cheating or rigging, considering, that happened on my season, that whole Missy's thing. But
no, there's a point to be made. He's blinded by the obsession that he would go so far as really tell us the reason he wants to double check all the rules is so that we can't pull a fast one on him, because he would do anything it takes to win, including maybe pulling a fast one. I don't know, but so obsessed with going for it that he even thinks he's right about absolutely everything, and that will come up later. I'm still not over that.
Yeah, so let's get into his blindside of Evie. Brutal blindside, which was so delicious for probably the lurkers, but I did feel bad for Evie.
Would you ever consider voting Evie? No. Our bond is too strong.
Yeah.
Cue next round. Pre-vote Evie.
Well, it doesn't count if they're in the final 3. Come on.
It's a whole new round. It's a whole new Evie. It's a whole new me.
Yeah, I felt bad.
The confessional of him like anticipating having to cut Evie like weeks and weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, Abe gets it from the rest of the jury, so it's not even necessarily worth diving into too much this round in particular, because we can get into it in the final 2. It's just, yeah, it's like I feel bad because I don't want to dunk on Abe too much. Like, he did play a good game. I love that he's obsessed with Stranded. I love that he gave it his all and gave us a great show. There's just some really obnoxious flaws that we can pick apart.
Like, I can dunk on him as well, but I mean, he is like the main character of the entire season. Even if he didn't make it to Final Tribal Council, he was probably the most defining character of the season. He did play a good game, but it's just, we can pick it apart. If he is such a Stranded super fan, he should probably know that this is what we do in the podcast anyway. And that post game is when things can change and we can all love each other. But for right now, we hate it.
And for right now, this is Evie's boot, and Evie knows the second that they finish the challenge that they lost the challenge. And I think they knew immediately upon messaging Abraham that, with Abraham's very first response, that, oh no, it's my turn now. I saw it coming with everyone else. Everyone saw it. And now it's my turn. And they had to swallow that very bitter pill, and then later they had to swallow an even probably shittier tasting pill in Ponderosa.
Yeah. That's sort of the one thing I don't have too much sympathy for with Evie, just because it's like, now you're getting a taste of what you did to all these jurors.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like, it's exactly what they did to them. Like,
yeah.
They led them to believe that they were close allies and that they got their vote for the round and nothing bad is going to happen. But I mean, Abe played them exactly like they played all the jurors. So
yeah, Evie was probably the harder.
If Evie if she sort of suffered from not realizing it was a final 2, I know she was the one who was saying that it probably would be a final 2, but I'm wondering if they would have acted sooner, because anticipating a final 3, they definitely got themselves there and they possibly could have even won. I'm just wondering if not fully embracing the possibility of a final 2 was potentially what prevented Evie from making a move earlier, sooner.
Yeah, I don't know. I think even because they were the only ones who were banging the final 2 drum the whole time, so they had to have thought about what that looked like. I think that they thought that they were going to be there with Xander, and it's just not the case, even though clearly Abe was going to win everything. Duh. Anyway,
they were willing to do all 15 past season box challenges in preparation, they were not going to win against Abraham here.
Yeah, and Abby looked like they were going to be, the typical Scooby-Doo winner. That is rare, but I think that they could have pulled that off. But alas, the season will not have a Scooby-Doo. As we always say, don't hinge your entire game on a Scooby-Doo reveal. But ironically, let's get into the final two. Xander had gotten the meme of the Scooby-Doo reveal all season and posted that meme, and I really think, they opened their tribal council with that saying, I'm not going to do a Scooby-Doo reveal, but here, and I really think that, he kind of spoke that into existence by banging that drum over and over again, because it's kind of exactly what happened. Xander put up a really good fight in his final two. I think a lot of the jury believed that it could tie and he could win. It was going to be very close. And honestly, probably would have deserved it, because at this point, it really is Abe against Abe. Do they want to vote against Abe or for Abe to win?
Yeah, before we start talking about that, because we probably will for a while, I do think Xander did quite well in Final Tribal. I actually quite liked his opener. I thought it was pretty good. I thought he had a pretty solid grasp of his game. I thought his weaker parts of Final Tribal was his follow-up responses to people. I don't think those were very good, but I think his initial responses to people were pretty solid.
I'm 100% that. I think that for his game that he played, he did a pretty good opening. And the questions that he answered were great, but as it kept going on, just was saying some things from like, oh, that may hurt you, buddy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that he was able to articulate parts of his game that I did not think, or at least had some doubt that he would be able to. So I agree with you all.
Yeah.
Now do we talk about Abe's opening statement?
Yeah. Xander did fine, and he talked, whatever. Let's talk about Abe. What can be said that hasn't been said about Abe? I really think
nothing's been said on the podcast yet about his opening statement.
Oh, the opening statement. Yeah.
Something blatantly obvious there.
Why don't you take it away, Loveita?
Okay. I mean, what Abraham's opening statement was him putting all of his confessionals on one side of his computer screen, copying and pasting bits of them from every round, and then over quite a few iterations, slowly editing it down, putting a little bit, like a little paragraph at the beginning and a little paragraph at the end, and throwing that in there. In addition to that, he also threw in some very interesting art pieces.
I was waiting for that. Oh man. Look, if nothing else, Abe has provided us with first entertaining moments, things to talk about, things to rage at. Our lurking passion for Abe, putting it nicely, fueled our watching of the season entirely. And he just made it so fun. And unfortunately, sorry, Abe. The idol gag, I mean, on paper, it's like iconic, but when you see it, it's like, oh man, it's like, getting socks for Christmas or something. It's just not it.
Like the really, really scratchy kind.
Like, it's oh my god. I feel offended just looking at it for your whole graphic design career.
It's an offense to Stranded. What's even, honestly, because it's just funny to look at, but what's really offensive is the people who believed it.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah.
I mean, my esteem for the cast's intelligence, except for Sarah. Good job, Sarah. Yeah, it really dropped by them not second-guessing anything about the idols, and I'm not even going to go into all the other reasons, because we could just talk for literally 15 minutes about why they should have picked up on this. But the fact that, you could still see the little white outlines.
Oh God, I've made my career out of critiquing, so I don't even know where to fucking begin on this. Whatever those things were in the middle that he chose, one looked like a turd stick, and the other one looked like Kenny the autistic tiger, and I just don't know. I don't know how anyone could see that and be like, "Yep, this is Stranded. This is a Stranded idol."
Like, I am so sorry for you, Poody. Like, I was so proud of this cast for a really long time, and then they did that, and I'm just so sad.
Yeah, that part was really tough to see, that the jury was just sort of accepting it, besides Sarah, who even then, eventually it was kind of like, I guess. But the worst part for me was the fact that in John Robert's Ponderosa thread, Danny posted his idol from one season, and I posted my fake idol from Tanzania, which was based on the real idols in Tanzania. And so it's like all these people could see what idols from previous seasons looked like. And to think that whatever the hell Abraham made is the standard? Like,
I can't wait for all these people to be like, I knew it. I knew that they were fake.
Oh, yeah.
Bitch, no, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't. We saw all the votes. You did not know they were fake. The only one who fucking knew was Sarah.
I agree with you that there were definitely clues, considering the art that is surrounding, the entire board.
Clues? That was a fucking roadmap to what the fuck that was.
Well, I don't know. There is like a part of me that like could see without them having the vast stranded knowledge that y'all have and Abe has at this point, that there was something about it that like was believable enough.
Tyler. Yeah, we're gonna put some hidden idols behind a secret forum that pops up for maybe an hour in the wee hours of the morning, and they're gonna look like shit.
This is not a good
Tyler. Even knowing nothing about Stranded at all, look the fuck around. Look at the forums. Look at the avatars. Just look around and be like, would they really put that as the idol?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm not disagreeing with you on that regard at all. I'm just thinking that for people who don't know what to look for, like it was enough. Like, to me, it was just blatantly obvious that Abe wasn't discussing these idols with regard to his game at any point in time. He just mentioned that he had them, but he didn't ever explain how they factored into any of his decisions round after round. And to me, like, that was way more obvious than the graphic choices.
Well, the fact that this paranoid bitch boy was freaking out all the time, you'd think that if he had two idols, he would use them at least once.
Well, that was the best part. So this is a classic Abe, okay? Love you, Abe, but please learn from this. You didn't need this. He doesn't need this shit. He doesn't need to like berate people for hours to convince them to be on his team. He doesn't need to do all this extra shit, and he definitely doesn't need to make these fake idols when he's so far ahead. Like, did you really need to dunk on them with two idols when you won like 10 immunities? Like, why? And then to really bordered on stupidity, because he risked all the good work he did on these two fucking idols, and
it nearly cost him the game. Even with them believing it nearly cost him the game, because they had to ask themselves, okay, was this guy just pretending to be anxious and paranoid the whole time? Or did he fake idols?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, what's the worst option?
The math ain't mathin'.
Right. He's immune every episode except for 2. The fact that he had to, like, it makes no sense that nobody questioned that at all, that he didn't keep himself safe.
And I think Jamie was pretty good with the fake idols. I mean, she ended up, I think, buying his bullshit maybe, but she did question it quite a lot. I just don't know. It's like, I think you were even screaming at them like, look at when it was created. It was created yesterday.
Like, I think Nofa was the one who brought up the fact that you could see the dates on the images, and
I mean, that's a deep cut. Like, this cast was not going to go that far. Maybe Abe would have, but not the rest of them.
The slimy thing about all this, though, is that I just hate how you have to lie in your speech to the jurors. It's the one time in the game you got to be honest and be like, yo, this is what I did. And I don't know. I just hope all these jurors just, in my wildest dreams, the jurors will come out of the game and just give him the stink eye for lying about this. It's just so unnecessary.
Yeah, because he didn't have to lie was the thing. Like, I get it. If you, like, made a bunch of mistakes in the game and you're like, whoops, maybe, I mean, I maybe wouldn't recommend a fake idol. Maybe, figure something else out. But if you want to, like, embellish your shit, go ahead. But, I mean, you're coming from the top here. You should be confident and secure and proud of the game you played. And if you have to fake idols like that, just as you said, Poody, to dunk on everyone else, it almost seems like, and that's how I feel like some people will feel when this comes out.
This could have been an opportunity to really like show his humanity by admitting to his being scared on those rounds he didn't have, because he had no protection and he had to trust his allies and he had to really like lean back on the relationships he'd made all game. I mean, that's where you sell it, right? I mean,
look, I'm going to give him this, because if this was Jean Robert and he pulled this shit, we would be losing our fucking minds. Like, we would be calling him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Like, what a G. So in that regard, like,
not if they looked like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of this is our frustration with him being at the top the whole time. But it did, like, the hubris of wanting that little extra bit of edge, I think, really almost cost him the whole game, which is so poetic. It didn't, spoiler alert, but it was fun that it really put a wrench in his plans, just having to do this one thing really out of ego. I mean, you can make the case that it was a game move, but I think it was really just a dunk on everyone.
If Abraham did this in this season where a lot of people were good org vets, or even a stranded all-star season, none of this would fly. They would all call him out. He would be disqualified for life.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I really hope Abe takes this on the chin. I mean, like, he fucking won. So, kudos to him. Like, we're going to congratulate him. We're going to talk about all the good things he did. But this time, while we're talking about our viewing experience, that's when we're going to shit on him.
All out now.
Yeah, I just hope he takes, like, I mean, because look, he played a fantastic game. He didn't need to do all the slimy shit that made us root against him. And not to say that he was like this monster. I mean, there were definitely some questionable points where he's using his anxiety to kind of get votes. And I think the jury rightfully called him out for that. And he got his shit. Really, what bothered us as players is just how annoying he was. Like, it wasn't even a slime factor. Like, whatever, use the game. It's just like how far out ahead he was and how unnecessary some of the steps were. I think if he reined that in a little bit, he would be much more rootable. Let's put it that way.
I think there's a little bit of, and I am going to call it out here, a little bit of entitlement that is really rubbing me the wrong way, where he's kind of, like, I deserve to win because I worked the hardest for it. It's like, nobody asked you to put 12 hours into practicing stacking bricks. Like, I don't know why people should reward you for that specifically. Like, yes, you put a lot of work into it. That doesn't mean everybody else didn't put a lot of work into this too. Other people, the jury, the final, they're next to you, they put a ton of their past month into this as well. It wasn't just you. So I think that's really what gets to me a lot as well.
Yeah, you don't get to get a free win just because you want it, because the entire cast can be applied to that.
I think it's like this, right? I think, yes, you put in the hard work and you're getting the reward of that, right? Like, you're getting the payment of it. It's in the wins, it's in the immunity wins, it's in the alliance domination, it's in the good gameplay. Like, he's getting that. It's the fact that I don't know if he actually thinks this or it's just a perceived thing that we're like salty about, but it's the thinking that he deserves it more than the other players. That's the problem, right? Like, absolutely, he deserves everything he's gotten because he did work his ass off for it more than most people have, but that doesn't mean he deserves it more than the other players.
Especially when he, can't remember the vote at Final 11 and questions the hosts on being right about the challenge that they made because he doesn't remember what happened in the game that he's winning.
Yeah, but he showed you his notes. Like, he's in the right, obviously.
Like those little things where it's like, you claim you put all of this work into it, but You were so focused on studying for this that you missed out on your own season in a way, it feels like. I don't know.
There was that one challenge where he's like, oh my god, like, I feel like I'm gonna fail this, where it was about, I forget the name of it, but it was one of the final ones, just about things that happened during the season, and he thought he would fail it. But it's like, your season should be the thing that you study, because if you get to the end, there's always some like trivia competition about things that have happened during this season. But you were busy studying all these other seasons except your own. And it also shows when all these jurors were talking to him saying that, was our friendship real? Like, they were starting to question it. The idol things, again, didn't help that either. Like, it was just, there's just a lot that you can talk about with Abraham.
And I mean, without a doubt, it was a legendary performance. Like it really and truly was. Just from him being the center point of the whole season. Like if we're thinking of this in Stranded history, right? And you're thinking back on this season, like you're thinking of John Robert and you're thinking of Abraham, without a doubt. And that is something that he can absolutely hold. I mean, he is the villain of the season. He is the person everyone lurking is talking about. He is the person that is controlling most of the votes. He's the person that's winning most of the challenges. So like, we can't take that away from him, nor would I want to. I'd like to celebrate that. And I do think he has his fans in the Lurkers Den. Erica, shout out. But, as the villain of the season, like, we get to shit on him. Sorry. So I guess I'm just prefacing this. Like, I don't want someone who loves the game and won the game to then listen back to this and feel like this was a bad experience, because it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, the fact that we've expended so much of our energy talking about him and the moves he made, I think it is to his credit. And I want to remember that. I want him to hear that if he's listening, because we do appreciate all the effort and going above and beyond on the moves. And, whether they were bad or not, we love a player who shows up and gives us something to watch, something to talk about. So I do want to make that point.
Yeah, and I'll just sort of echo that because, a big part of the season was watching to see if anybody was going to be able to stop Abe. And then once he got to the final two, it was watching to see if anybody was going to catch on to his idols or any of his stuff. So like you said, he absolutely was the center point of the season, whether it was for good or bad reasons. And I agree with you. I think that he really killed it. So he absolutely will be remembered.
Yeah, I really want to point out something that Kimmy said at one point in the Lurker server that proved true to the final moments of this game, which is that the whole season can be summed up like this. Abe says or does something crazy and or stupid. All of us, this is it. This will be the thing that kills him. They won't fall for this. The rest of the cast falls for it.
And that says it all. And like, we keep like backtracking and, we're harsh in these podcasts, but we do know that these are people that are listening and they want to hear good things about themselves. Sometimes they don't, but that doesn't mean we didn't enjoy them as characters. Like quite the opposite. If we're not talking about you, we're not interested. So, kudos to Abe for putting himself out there. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's like purposely making people feel like shit or something. It's just, it's the game of Stranded.
Yeah, I never get to be the mean one, so.
Like, that's the thing. He's the character of the season, and by far the most memorable that we will think back on when someone talks about these days. And I was someone who studied quite a bit. I listened to all of the Victory and Kuril Island podcasts before I played my season. So, like, I can understand his passion, and I do like that he was really passionate. But, in his position, when he became the villain, he just root against it. And so, from one villain to another, I hope he can, take it on the chin. But if not, he, made some great friends as well. Like, I feel he'll be best friends with Xander and Evie after this. So, he has that going for him.
And I also am a tryhard. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're throwing stones, but we are for sure in glass houses. But he's in good company amongst some of the worst people on the internet. So welcome to stream. The water's fine. No, I really, yeah. Well, we earned that title. Okay. All in all, what did we think of the season? I think not. I don't know. Blonzilla put it best, and she's hosted tons of these fuckers. The fact that we were all night after night posting outrageous things that they said to one another, why nobody caught on to it was like a hoot, and he got away with it. And I think that in itself was super fascinating. This was a back to basics season, no idols, 16 player, 2 tribes, no swaps, merge, final 2, and I think it did prove in a way that you don't need all this hoopla to make a great season. You just need entertaining people. That being said, it probably could have used a swap or 2 to spice things up, but it was fun. I enjoyed thoroughly putting this one together. It was fun lurking and hate watching. Sometimes that's fun too. And they gave us something to talk about, which is what we want. That's all we asked for. And they showed up and they gave us something to talk about.
Yes, we definitely talked about this season a lot, and much of it will never be shown to any of those players.
Yeah, God bless them. But
no, I wish that early in the season we had one loss from Ansha, just one. That's all I think we needed. And I think that really would have just made the season something spectacular. And because that didn't happen, the structure of the season, we had great characters, but things kind of went a little frustratingly as a result.
If Ansha did have at least one pre-merged tribal after Danni was removed, that definitely would have at least gotten them prepared and they would have been able to test each other out. But, I mean, I've only watched a few seasons of Stranded because I'm still relatively new, but this was the first one where it was a hate watch, and, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna... It's not a bad season. I don't think it's a great season. It's definitely, I guess, in the middle for me. It's just very, very there. Well-made, average.
Look, no season of Stranded's bad because we get great people. Like we go out of our way to make sure that the people are awesome. But sometimes it just doesn't. It's not a great story to tell. It's just it is what it is. That being said, they gave us a lot to watch, and I think that's okay. Look, we don't rig Stranded. It is what it is. It's frustrating, but that's how these players decided to play, and we'll have plenty to talk about because of that. And I do think it's going to really make them reevaluate how they play the next time they do play. Even the people who have played a long time, I think will think about their decisions in this game and probably adjust going forward. So it'll be fun to see what happens. I'm glad to welcome all these new people to Stranded. I hope they stick around despite us shitting on them these past 2 days.
Same here. I hope that there'll be good sports about it. I think most will.
Yeah.
We hope.
But I'm excited to meet all of them. I'm excited to give them their experience of the award ceremony and announcing the winner. And it'll be really fun to see live their reaction to the 2 fake idols.
Yeah, it will.
I cannot wait for that.
So tune in for that. And then, it was fun. Look, Stranded, it's been a long time since we have a Stranded. I think that also played into our fuel of hate watching, if you want to call it that. And it's fun. It's just, if it wasn't so fun to watch, it would not still be going. But it is. I really enjoy people watching, and I think we all do. And so they gave us something to watch, and we have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Felt like watching. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just think you've got a lot of new org fans after this game. I know there's a lot of people who've probably bitten the bug, so to speak. And so, just offering a really solid, well-hosted game, I think goes a long way, even if it's a back to basics season. So congrats to all of you.
Yeah, and guess what, players, if you're listening to this back and hate how much we dunked on you, you can hate watch next season.
There you go.
And
That's how it is.
So fun. It's so fun.
We talk shit all the time, but you know what? If we really hated it, I wouldn't be here. It's great.
Well, and then, you got to be able to take it if you're going to dish it, right? So next season you get to dish it, though. And look, I think the people in Ponderosa get that experience. That's part of the cathartic, getting it all out of your system while you watch other people go through the game and make stupid mistakes that you probably made as well. But in this case, you just get to make fun of them. That's the fun in it. And I think some people maybe, Abe and Xander didn't get that experience yet, but when they do get that experience, it is so rewarding to be able to just shit on other people and not have to worry about making mistakes yourself, because look, we've all made mistakes. It's very easy to do. So, and the reason we keep coming back is because people will always make mistakes. And so it's fun to watch them make them and comment on them. All right. I think that just about covers it. That's going to wrap our 2-night recap of the season. Sorry, we didn't give more podcasts. It's just a nature of the beast of being busier as I get older. But I hope to do this more frequently, get back in the practice. I am going to try to host more seasons now that we're coming out of the hiatus. I hope people listening, if you're interested in co-hosting with us, there's certainly spots for that. I think that will absolutely help there be more frequent seasons. And, thanks to all my co-hosts this time who enabled me to continue to do this, because without the support, if I had to do all this myself, I would not be continuing. So thank you guys. Could not do this without you. And the community of lurkers, they obviously show up time and time again and make it fun to watch and discuss. So without them, we would probably lose interest as well. So with that, thank you guys. And this is Poody out.
Thanks, guys. Great season. See ya.